Hey, so thanks for coming to tell us today
Oh,
about
wait, I don't have
Earnest.
my vest.
All right, thank you for joining us today to talk a little bit about earnest money. First of all, in the context of real estate, I'd like to ask you, what is the purpose of earnest money?
Sure. The purpose of earnest money is to show the seller that you're in earnest, you're serious about buying his or her property. So if you put up $500 earnest money, that says one thing. If you put up $5,000 earnest money, that says something quite different. The way that the earnest money process works for me, the way I handle it is I don't like to handle checks and money and deal with that. So what I do is I write into my offers that the buyer will deposit earnest money with the title and escrow company within a few days, depending on the situation, within a few days of mutual acceptance or when both parties have agreed on terms. So, and that's something that, of course, has to be followed up on. So, the process is then that we write an offer, we go back and forth, we negotiate till we get acceptance, then that starts the clock. And before those 3 days are up, my clients are putting the earnest money into escrow. They get an earnest money deposit receipt. That money is then credited towards their purchase, either towards their down payment or their closing costs. So title and escrow are, in essence, a neutral third party. So they're not for the seller, they're not for the buyer, they're for everybody, but they're going to follow the rules as written in the contract. They're going to follow the contract. And so that's how the general process works for earnest money.
Okay, cool. One other question I had was just in general, like how much earnest money should you put down and how much does a difference does it make?
Good question. It can make a lot of difference. The general rule of thumb that I've always heard is 1% of the purchase price is a good number to use for earnest money. But there are times when you'd want to offer more earnest money. So if you really, really, really love a house and you know that you're competing, well, that is an easy way to show a seller that you're very serious about the house. So if 1% is the norm, well, maybe you offer 2%. If you think people are offering 5,000, maybe you offer 10,000. Or if people are offering $500 typically, well, offer $2,000. It's a way to stand out from the other buyers, and that combined with maybe another term or two can really help to make the seller take a real serious look at you. And even if maybe your financing isn't quite as good necessarily from the seller's perspective, or if maybe some other term is not quite as good as maybe it's the sales price. Maybe you're not quite at the highest price. But if you've got more earnest money, they know you've got more cash for one thing, they may take you more seriously. And then that combined with how your agent represents you and perhaps what information your agent may have been able to glean for you, that can those things all combined can make a big difference in terms of getting your offer accepted. So sometimes people ask, what's the minimum amount of earnest money we can do? Well, so I know in investing, they say you can do $10. Of course, there's some argument about that. Some people say, well, that's totally unreasonable. You do 500 at minimum, but whatever. We're not talking about investing today. We're talking about regular, brokerage real estate. You're going to buy a property, which, by the way, I can help you with investing as well. But with regular brokerage, I've written tons and tons of offers at $500 earnest money. So that's kind of a minimum that I've used and seen many times, and those offers oftentimes do come together and they do work. The least that I've seen is no less than $500, but I had a seller just accepted a deal where it was $500 earnest money offered, but it was in the form of a promissory note with the earnest money to be delivered at closing. So that was interesting. So there was no the $500 wasn't held with the buyer's agent, and it wasn't held with escrow, and it wasn't given to the seller. It was with the buyer until the close date. So that's another way to do it. I don't recommend that. I don't think that's the best way to get your offer accepted, but under certain circumstances, you can. So just thought I'd pass that along. Now, another thing about earnest money is if you're doing new construction, many times a builder will want a certain amount of money up front, and in which case that earnest money becomes non-refundable. And there's some other terms in there. Maybe I'll get into it another time. But hopefully that helps answer all the questions about earnest money for now. If you need to get a hold of me, I'm at 440-420-1342. And happy to answer any questions you've got or help you with your buying and selling needs. Also, if you need a referral to another area, even anywhere in the world, just make sure you've got it pinpointed where you want to go. So I'm not looking for many agents in different areas in case you want to go to a particular area. And then even if it's international. So just let me know and I'll be happy to help you.